Welcome to Ticats Today on the Ticats Audio Network for this Wednesday, August the 4th, 2021. No practice for the Hamilton Tiger Cats today. No, they are on a plane on their way to Winnipeg because tomorrow they open their season. Yes, less than 24 hours away, depending on when you're listening to this. Could be more than 24 hours, but about 24 hours, let's say, away from the Ticats opening their season in Winnipeg against the defending Grey Cup champion in the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Lots to get to on that game. We're going to hear from Tommy Condell, the offensive coordinator. We'll hear from Simoni Lawrence as well. We're going to run through the depth chart as the Ticats released that earlier today. We'll highlight the injured list, couple of maybe surprises, or at least one surprise for sure on the 6-game injured list. We'll get to that in just a second. And we'll wrap up the show when the Hamilton Spectator's Steve Milton drops by. We'll get his thoughts on the game. I mentioned the depth chart being released, and I do want to start with the injured list because a couple of starters, guys you would have expected to be the starters on the injured list, but it's the 6-game injured list we're going to start with here because Braylon Addison and Devere Posey, both on the 6-game injured list. And the Devere Posey one might not be as big of a surprise, but still, coach already ruled him out for this game. But Braylon Addison being placed on the 6-game injured list seems pretty significant. A 1,000-yard receiver was obviously going to start if he was healthy. So a big loss there with the loss of Braylon Addison. We'll get to the depth chart in just a second, but as mentioned, Devere Posey also on the 6-game injured list. And just running down the 1-game injured list, highlighting some guys who likely would have started this game if healthy. Tunde Adeleke, Don Jackson, Chris Frey Jr., Cariel Brooks, Chris Van Zyl, Ted Laurent, all likely starters that the Ticats will be without in this one. So the depth being tested early for the Ticats. Also on that list, Jake Burt, Tim White, Kyle Wilson, Malik Carney, all on the 1-game injured list. So a couple of surprises on that one. Running down the depth chart here on offense, no surprises up front for the Ticats, I don't think. If you've been listening, if you've been reading what Steve Milton has been putting out there, what other people at practice have been saying, from left to right up front on the offensive line, we got Trevion Tate, Brandon Revenberg, Darius Sirocco playing center, at right guard Jesse Gibbon, and Okafor, that's K. Okafor, at right tackle. Again, no Chris Van Zyl, big loss, 14-year CFL vet. Talked to him the other day. He's feeling hopeful. He's feeling encouraged, but just wasn't ready to go for this one. Your receivers, again, your wide receivers, you got Jalen Ackland, no surprise. David Ungerer, the third, good Canadian. You got him there out there for the ratio. Slot backs, you got Marcus Tucker, Jalen Marshall, and Speedy B. At quarterback, we already know this, and we're going to hear from offensive coordinator Tommy Condell in just a second, but it is Jeremiah Masoli. Coach wasn't throwing us off. It's Jeremiah Masoli who will be starting at quarterback. Dane Evans backing him up. At starting running back, we got another Canadian in Sean Thomas Erlington. Again, some people may forget just how good of a season Sean Thomas Erlington was having before he got hurt back in 2019. He's going to be motivated to go. He's going to be excited to have a really good season. And then Nico Kalinic at fullback starting there as well, another Canadian. On defense, up front, the front four, we got Jagarrett Davis. Jagarrett Davis, no surprise. Obviously, he's ready to come out there, going to try to build on what he did last season, which was just outstanding. Eddie Wilson, the second, if you've been listening to us this week, you might have picked up on, I wasn't really sure if Teddy Laurent was going to go. I was looking at a guy like Eddie Wilson, the second in that role. Dylan Wynn had a lot of really good things to say about him. I'm going to see if I can find that clip for you in just a bit, but a lot of good things to say about Eddie Wilson the second. And in fact, I do have that clip here for you. We talked to Dylan Wynn, who was going to be starting alongside him, just to get his thoughts on what he thought of playing alongside a guy like Eddie Wilson the second.
He's a baller. Everyone in our room is ballers. We had the lucky situation where we had a very full room coming into camp, and I don't think that there's a single guy in our room that couldn't, make legitimate plays in this league and other leagues. And we have a lot of weapons, and it's cool when guys get the opportunity to, shine and they get their shot. And like we say, man, it's next man up. We're ready to roll, and I'm very excited to work with them.
So as you can tell, there's a lot of praise there for someone that he's played with alongside. Again, we're running down the depth chart here on Ticats Today on the Ticats Audio Network. Louie B, the digital host, thanks for joining us. Really do appreciate it. Make sure to check us out at ticats.ca. We had a ton of great announcements yesterday. We're gonna refresh you on those ones in just a little bit. But yesterday we had a great day down here at Tim Hortons Field. RJ Broadhead, the new play-by-play voice, was with Luke Tasker. I was working a lot with Andy Fantuz. We can't wait for our first broadcast tomorrow night. It's going to be a 7:30 pregame show on ticats.ca, the Ticats All Access app, and on terrestrial radio at 900 CHML. So we can't wait for that first broadcast. I know a lot of people have been working behind the scenes to bring you that. All right, let's focus back on the depth chart here. As we left off on that front four, which Garrett Davis, Dylan Wynn, as we just heard, with a lot of praise for Eddie Wilson the second. Julian Hauser, no surprise there on the defensive end. Up the middle at Will linebacker, we got Simoni Lawrence. Again, one of the longest serving Ticats alongside Jeremiah Masoli. He's back for another year. I honestly don't think that guy took a snap off all training camp, all week. If there's anyone who's dying to go out there and hit somebody, Simoni Lawrence is right there. Jovan Santos Knox, the new guy lining up at Mike there, the middle linebacker. And then we got Cameron Kelly. Started a couple of games for the Pittsburgh Steelers, had an interception back in 2019. He's getting the spot at Sam linebacker. And then in the secondary, we got Jamal Roll at the corner, Frankie Williams on the other corner. Again, a bit of a surprise with Cariel Brooks out on the one-game injured list. We got Stribling stepping up. That's Channing Stribling out of Michigan. This is his first year, first season, getting a first start at the halfback secondary spot. And Mike Daly, longtime Canadian, back there at safety. Ciante Evans also at the halfback spot. So there you go. That is the Ticats depth chart as they're lining up. Again, not a whole lot of surprises. The biggest surprise, I would say, Braylon Addison on the 6-game injured list. So we'll have to get an update on coach from that one once the Ticats are back from Winnipeg. All right, teed it up a little bit, but let's hear from the offensive coordinator of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Of course, the big news to start the week was that Jeremiah Masoli was going to be the starter, and we got Tommy Condell, offensive coordinator's thoughts on that decision.
Well, both of them are, as you alluded earlier, with strong competitive, but the character that they have, and each one of them, and to be able to, they've already been there, done that in regards to supporting each other, meaning last year as well. You know, when the injury took place. So they have already had that water under the bridge, so to speak, to build that and build it strong, where you saw each one of them support each other. And they continue to do that. And it's a credit to themselves and how they lead their lives. I think they see the game now as in a whole picture. You know, they see it that there's more people that are truly involved in the whole thing. And also, you have to win the game within the game. And it's not just going out there and forcing a ball here or there, but also understanding that during the game time that it's let the game come to you and not force the game. Well, they both deserve as much as they. Let me tell you, I mean, those guys are always actively involved in the game plan. In fact, all the players are, but obviously the quarterbacks are heavily involved in it as they run the machine. So. But when they come in and they have their plays, they're just going to put it high up on that whiteboard where I really can't reach it without a stool. So they know that it stays up there. So they've already had their coaching hats on, and I'm very excited about their input. And it's solid and it's right.
That is the offensive coordinator of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, Tommy Condell, and like you mentioned, it's a good problem to having two guys who are capable of playing starting quarterback. And that's, of course, exactly what the Ticats have in Jeremiah Masoli and Dane Evans. So we'll have to see if Tommy has any tricks up his sleeve heading into this one. I would not be surprised if we see some Tommy foolery, if we can call it that, in this one against the Bombers. Having two quarterbacks, who knows? Maybe. Yeah, we'll see. I don't want to tip anything. I don't know anything, but who knows what we see from Masoli and Evans in this one and throughout this season. As mentioned earlier in the week, Jeremiah Masoli, the longest-serving member of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. In fact, the co-longest-serving member of the Ticats. That's a title that he shares with Jeremiah Masoli. And you talk about guys who have been through thick and thin with this organization. No better sums it up than those two gentlemen, Simoni Lawrence and Jeremiah Masoli. And having such a close relationship for so long, we had to know what Simoni's reaction was to knowing that, to hearing, that Jeremiah Masoli would be the starting quarterback.
Honestly, it's kind of cool just to watch the progress. I know I remember like it was yesterday when everything happened in Winnipeg. I remember how heartbroken he was because I know how hard he works. I trained with him in San Francisco, and, he just looked at me. He's like, I'll be back. And, just watch him put that into motion and make everything come true. I'm just super excited and can't wait to watch him ball. Jeremiah is one of those people where he's soft-spoken, but when he speaks, it means so much. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's like one of the only guys in like part of the crew that could just like, when he yells or when he says something, everybody's like, oh, snap, what's up? Like, everybody gets the chills like, oh, all right, cool. Like, what's up, man? And it's just like, he's one of those guys that can get everybody in the board because I think he sees it from both perspectives. Like, he's one of those quarterbacks that I say is a dog quarterback, like he gets it. It's impeccable, especially to give credit to Jeremiah. Just watching him drop dimes today, I was like, oh, snap, that's my quarterback. And then you got Dane, and he dropped one on us today. I was like, oh, snap, that's my quarterback too, but he's doing it on us. But nah, it's definitely, we got two star quarterbacks, and it's fun to practice against, and it makes everybody better. And I think it makes everybody come and go for an individual goal.
That was Simoni Lawrence as he spoke to the media earlier this week, and you can tell he's fired up. Of course, Simoni Lawrence, I'm sure he has been waiting a very, very long time to go out on the football field and actually hit someone on the other team. It's probably been since the last time he saw this Winnipeg Blue Bombers team at the Grey Cup. Someone's going to be fired up for that one. All right, it has been a long time away from football for all of us. And everybody's got those Christmas Eve jitters. But what about someone who's covered, 20, 30 games, openers in his career? Maybe, I'm not sure if I have that number right, but Steve Milton from the Hamilton Spectator. Milty, for however many games you've started, for however many season kickoffs you've done, you still getting those butterflies ahead of tomorrow's game.
I'd rather be there, but it's so exciting given the 2 years, Louie. I mean, I think it's you're probably going to be able to feel it, and full crowd too, right? So we write all about that in the Spectator today, and that's all very, very exciting, And I think I can't imagine what it's like to be a player. And I think Jeremiah Masoli told us yesterday that, or on Tuesday, I guess it was, that he's not really going to know exactly how to feel until he sees the other team on the field in their uniforms. I thought that was pretty accurate.
And the one thing I was surprised to hear Jeremiah say when we talked to him was he can't wait till that first hit, right? I mean, he hasn't said that yet, but he said that yesterday.
Yeah, that's for sure. And there's a lot behind that, right? I mean, this is the team he was hurt against. Right, it's been 2 years plus 10 days or something since he last took a live snap against this team, and maybe we'll see a quarterback sneak on the first play. Who knows? So I mean, those are the kind of things. So I think it'll be really, really interesting given that these are two of the teams that are basically expected to be there when this is all done at the end. But they're, as Orlando Steiner kept pointing out, it's not a slam dunk. You don't know what 2 years off is going to do to anybody, let alone a collective.
Shaking off the rust, that's something Coach O talked about yesterday, and something that I know you were asking about, writing about, because there is a rust factor that you really can't measure, because really that you can look to the NFL, you can look, and I know that they've talked to their counterparts with such a long layoff, but nothing really compares to what they're going through between games.
No, I just don't. I don't know how you can judge it. They did what they could to talk to people in the NFL and the and NCAA. Every single coach of the staff, and I'm sure every member of every coaching staff in the CFL did that heading into training camp. But they aren't exactly comparable because most people did get to play a little bit somewhere, whether it was in training camps or in delayed spring football if you were in lower Division 1 or Div 2 in the U.S. or maybe some training camps. There's a few players, but nobody is compared directly to what happened in the CFL, partly because of the border crossing. Well, mostly because of the border crossing. The rest had to do with finances, right?
Yeah.
So.
Let's take a look at this Ticats depth chart. We mentioned it earlier on the broadcast here, but maybe I guess the biggest surprise for me was the addition of Braylon Addison to the 6-game injured list. He joins Devere Posey, and now it seems like all of a sudden that depth at the receiver position that we were talking about so much during camp is going to be tested right away.
Yeah, and when Braylon hadn't played much, you knew that perhaps he could be a kind of guy that they might slip in and you could probably go. But once he really didn't go on game day 2 and day 3 this week on what was that, Monday and Tuesday, you kind of sensed that something was. That's why I was surprised that some of the earlier cuts were among those receivers. But I think they had to work with the people that they had, and I think they tried to look for similar types of people. And it's clear that experience paid off here. For when you take a look at who started, Tucker was here last year. He was the 4th leading receiver on the team, right? And so he steps in. And Jalen Marshall, who had some experience last year and just a little bit, but they were familiar with it. They got the head start. And a lot of the things that we've been predicting for several months now, that when they did get going, perhaps with a good team that was expected to win in a shortened season with no exhibition games, it was really going to benefit you to have had some experience with the team. And that is clear by this roster.
Well said. Steve Milton from the Hamilton Spectator with us here on Ticats Today on the Ticats Audio Network. The offensive line, obviously, Chris Van Zyl was someone who was limited in practice. I think you and I kind of were believers that we wouldn't see him here in week 1. But you look at that offensive line, Coulter Woodmansey, basically the only depth guy on there. What are you expecting to see from those 6 players that are on the offensive line here today or tomorrow?
Well, there's a couple things here. They haven't played in a while, so there's going to be some rust there. So those players are going to want to play a lot of snaps, and then they have quite a bit of time off after this, right? So you can't afford to have an American lineman on the roster. So the roster is designed and has been for several years to take this flexibility. I've talked about this an awful lot, and I've written about it a lot. So Woodmansey, when you look at it now, there's only one guy I think starting in the same spot that he. As we wrote in the Spectator today, one guy starting in the same spot that he did in the Grey Cup game, and that's Revenberg at left guard. I mean, Sirakos, of course, started in the game, but he's moved over to center from right guard. And then you got Kay Okafor, Jesse Gibbon, and Tate. They've all been around the team, but it's some real good chance for those guys. So Woodmansey, I mean, they drafted him pretty high for a reason. And he can probably slip. So this is designed to maybe he can spell people on the way through. And if there is an injury there, I can't think of a position where there could be an injury that it's not taken care of here. If it's at center, then Gibbon moves over and Woodmansey goes, or Woodmansey goes straight up at center if that's the case. A guard, same thing. He could fill in at one of the tackles just to get you through the game, and then you'd bring in somebody off the practice roster for the next game, and that would be an American League.
And again, that's one of the factors everybody's going to be watching is what do the bodies do in actual game action. I think the Ticats are confident in their training staff and in their recovery, and I think based on what we've seen the last 3 weeks that they feel they're as close to 100% game ready, but you'll never know until you actually go out there.
You never really know. And I think the other thing we should mention about this, and we started writing about this about 10 days ago in the Spectator, is that they've got to go with 6 Canadian offensive starters. So you couldn't put an American in there because you couldn't replace an American with an American on the offensive line, right? You've got to, if a Canadian goes down, you can't replace him with an American in this situation because they're tight. They're locked into it. So you've got Unger, you got the 4 guys across the line, you got Unger, and you've got Erlington and Thomas Erlington and Kalinick. So they actually have 7 there that they can go there, but you may want to and a great break for Ternosky from Sir Alan McNabb. He gets it not only onto the PR, he had a tough fight there, but now he gets to actually dress for his first game. He can. I don't know if he'll be the holder, but he could be for the kicking. I doubt that he will, but he's the backup. If Unger goes down, he gets to play, or that's one of the spots that you now go down to 6 Canadians on offense.
Another great story, Burlington's Miles Manalo, of course, looks like he's going to dress for his first game. Mr. Irrelevant, I know they usually call the last draft pick in the CFL draft, but Miles Manalo, a Western product. Before I let you go here, Melty, I do want to get your thoughts on the secondary, because I think that was a question that people were looking at with the departure of Rico Murray and the retirement of Delvin Breaux, and now they're in a spot where, okay, there's no Carriel Brooks either. So, I mean, especially that halfback side with Roland and Stribling, do you think that's a spot that Winnipeg is going to look to maybe exploit a little bit tomorrow night?
Well, I think they will. But remembering Roll played a lot there. I mean, Delvin Breaux was hurt a fair amount last year. Or in 2019. So Roll had played there and showed that he can be a starter. I mean, that's one of the spots they were looking at all year, that maybe one of the new guys would take him, because it's very, very definitely relates to 4-down football. It's the same kind of spot, right? It's one of the few positions in the back seven that is very similar to what you would play in 4-down football. So that's why you see because it's basically head-up coverage. I think they'll probe it because halfback's the hardest spot to play in this league and defensively, in my mind. It may be the Sam linebacker a little bit, because there's not much like it, but halfback in this league is really, really different. And they probed there last in the Grey Cup as well, so I think they will. Now the guy they tended to probe with was a lot of times was Adams, and he's not playing. So there'll be some people out there taking their shots and hook and curl in there, and that's where Simoni Lawrence and the communication with Mike Daly there, and remembering Mike is starting because Tunde Adeleke isn't. And they got a lot of, they got 4 or 5, 6 potential starters on the injury list, 2 of them on the 6 game. So.
Yeah, Don Jackson, Carriel Brooks, Chris Van Zyl, at least 6, yeah. Teddy Laurent. Yeah, and it's not the way they envisioned, but I think this is the next man up mentality that Coach O has talked about in his time.
Well, Winnipeg's doing that a bit too, right? They've got a couple out. I mean, Andrew Harris.
Yeah, huge loss. Most outstanding Canadian, and of course the MVP of the Grey Cup. Milty, I know you're a busy man. We got Forge, we got Ticats, we got Honey Badgers. So I'm going to let you go. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks. And thanks to the Spectator allowing me to do this, too.
My thanks to Steve Milton and the Hamilton Spectator for letting him join me today. And my thanks to you for tuning in to today's program. Really do appreciate your support. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We're on podcast form here on the Ticats Audio Network. And speaking of the Ticats Audio Network, no show tomorrow, but we will be streaming live starting at 7:30. Myself and Andy Fantuz will get you set with the pregame show. Getting set 7:30, like I said, we're on the air, and then at 8:30 we'll hand it off to RJ Broadhead and Luke Tasker, who will have the call. Andy and I will be back for the halftime and post-game, and of course it's all streaming live on ticats.ca or the All Access app, and you can also catch it on radio 900 CHML. All right, my thanks again for Milty for stopping by. My thanks to you for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Our first broadcast, our first game. It's the Ticats and the Bombers. This has been Ticats Today on the Ticats Audio Network. I'm Louie B, hoping that you have a great day.